Alright, we are live.
Oh, pardon me while I put this away.
Alright, live.
So the chat will show up right there. Okay.
Yeah. So I think it's still kind of... Video is unavailable. It took a little while last time to get all that. For it to sync up.
I don't understand all that stuff. You're on your own. Wait a minute. Why does it say animation Q&A with Victor Navone? It's with Frank Abney and Victor Navone, isn't it? I mean, it's not just going to be all me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Add that in there.
I'll be like your sidekick. You're alphabetically first on both counts.
Oh, there we go. Someone is here.
Oh, look at that. A ringer. What do they win?
It says no one's watching, but you popped in. I don't know why the video's not. Is it synced up? If you can hear me, hold on 1 second.
You can hear me. Blink twice. Make a poop emoji.
Okay, it's on.
OBS.
Yeah, I don't know what that stands for.
I got an idea.
Oh, okay, people are in.
Hey!
Alright.
Bad video setting. What does that mean? Please use a keyframe frequency of 4 seconds or less. It should say 4 seconds or fewer.
Huh.
Currently, keyframes are not being sent often enough, which causes buffering. Oh. Where do you change that? Is that in here?
Yeah, I think in the preferences. Hello, everybody.
Video. Oh, common FPS video currently active. Oh, so you have to stop it, I think, and then change it, and then do it again.
Oh.
You want to risk stopping it? I mean, we're at 3:33 here, so.
We'll just keep going. Can you, or actually, do a test. Can you guys see us? Looking good, guys.
There's a guy named Magical Farts. That's cool.
Magical
Farts.
I said the same thing. It's
actually, looks like it might be a girl.
Magic of Arts. I did the same thing. Okay, cool. So you can't see me. So I guess we can go off of this window then, since that one isn't updated. So let me slide this a little more.
Good.
Cool. Yeah. All right, guys.
Hey.
Audio and video are perfect.
Should I scoot closer, or are we gonna get like a little? There we go. Oh, that's
there we go. All right, so I typed up all the questions here, and I guess we can either.
Do you have like do you need to do like an opening monologue or something? I mean,
yeah.
This is your show.
Well.
Welcome to the Frank Abney Show with your host Frank Abney. Now here's Frank.
Okay, so before we jump into the questions, I'm sure all you guys know who this guy is. If not, this is Victor Navone. Known Victor for about 10 years now.
Wow. And you were one of my first AM students.
Yeah, so kind of cool. Full circle. Coming back around.
Yeah. Did you guys tell him about the picture that you posted?
Oh,
the note that you wrote yourself.
Yeah. So I'm sure you guys saw that. So after college, I wrote a note to myself and kept it tucked away just to as inspiration, and also putting it out to the universe, to try to make it happen. But yeah, I wrote Frank Abney, animator at Pixar Animation Studios, and as I was cleaning out my wallet last weekend, I found it, and since I've just started here a few weeks ago, it was pretty cool to find that and see that it all worked out. So. And
I love that it's the size of a fortune cookie.
Yeah.
It's like just a little sheet of paper that big. You made your own fortune. It's pretty rad.
But
can you guys do like a sound check real quickly to make sure, because there's a lot of ambient noise here, so I just want to make sure if you guys can hear us okay. Speak up. Maybe there's a little time delay here, so people are talking about the post.
Oh yeah, there's a few seconds.
Also, hi.
Hello.
We're on a time delay in case one of us says something really disgusting that has to be censored, right? It's all good. Sounds good to me. Okay, great.
Cool.
Thank you, people.
All right. Shout out to Apple. But yeah, before we jump in here, I guess you can tell them a little bit about yourself.
Oh,
when you
sure.
started here.
Yeah,
and-
yeah. So my name is Victor Navone. I've been animating here since 2000. So 17 years as of March 14th. Not that I'm counting. Yeah, but I'm like self-taught animator kinda, in that I didn't go to school for animation. I got hired here through. I came in through the sort of side door of Pixar, where I sent in my reel and they rejected it. But then I did a video animation piece, like an animation test on my own that went viral. And then Ed Catmull saw that and said, "Hey, do you want to come in for an interview?" Sure.
Alien
So
Song.
that worked out. Yeah, Alien Song. You can look it up on YouTube. It's there. I'm pretty sure. That was like the third thing I ever animated, CG animated anyway.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, but that was a different time. That was 2000. Well, it was 1999 when that came out, and there just weren't that many people doing CG animation, and most of the software was price prohibitive, and the machines to run it on, SGIs, were just ridiculously expensive. But Animation Master, this program had just come out. It was like $200, right? And you could rig and animate. It was pretty damn powerful. It was pretty great. So I was able to teach myself animation on that on my spare time. But my degree is in art, so I come from a fine art background. But I've always enjoyed acting and filmmaking and storytelling, so I found that animation came pretty naturally to me.
Nice.
Not that it hasn't been hard work, because it's been a lot of hard work.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I guess we can kind of bounce
Yeah, let's
back
do
and
some
forth.
questions. Why don't you lead off?
So
Show me how it's
first
done.
one, Brittany Owens. I think I saw you in here, Brittany.
Let's hope so. Yeah, I'll make sure she's here before we answer her question. Although this is being recorded,
Yeah.
so
Oh well, you're probably working.
she's probably working,
you're-
unlike
you're-
us. 3:30 on a freaking Tuesday.
All right. So Brittany asks, how do you approach subtle shots? I find when the character isn't moving much, it seems harder to animate.
You've done some subtle shots, so I want to hear this.
In those subtle shots, it's hard to determine what your reference is doing since it's barely moving. Tips on how to analyze the reference. So kind of a two-part question. I guess how I approach subtle shots, especially for coming from I guess a character that's not moving a whole lot. I think what I tend to look for is what the head and the eyes are doing, because I feel like if it's a more contained shot with the body, then a lot of times you'll get these little accents in the head and the eyes, and I try to pick like a driver of the shot, and so sometimes I'll just start with that. Like I'll keep the body still completely and just animate the eye direction and the little head, little things in the head that are going on, and then afterward I'll do some reactive animation with the body, and that's where the second part of the question on analyzing the reference, if the body's not doing much, I think I just go off of what I feel the body should be doing, just sitting there and kind of doing those things and feeling what your torso and shoulders and all those things are, how they're working together, based on the physicality and also the line. There'll be accents throughout the line, different things to where you can bring in those different parts to really I guess support that. So that's how I approach it anyway. What about you?
I would echo what you're saying. Especially in subtle shots, the audience is always going to be looking at the character's eyes, so you really have to make sure that those are working from the beginning. And you're doing all the same things that you would do in like a more active acting shot. You're just doing it in this region instead of using the whole body. So you're planning out your beats. What's my thought process? what are the beats that I need to go through? You know, is there like there's a character going internal? Is he seeing something and reacting to it and then going internal? Is he having a memory? Is he imagining something? How do I show all those distinct beats playing out in like the eyes and the brows, for example, and then kind of building the performance outward from that, which you should always be doing to a degree anyway, kind of thinking of the performance outward.
Yeah.
But in a subtle shot, I think you have to put a lot more work into that from the beginning, just to get the subtlety of the eyes.
Yeah.
And I know there's one animator here, John Lee. Have you met John Lee yet?
Mm-mm.
He gets a lot of subtle shots. You know, he's like really in his wheelhouse. And a lot of times, the first thing he will do is just animate all the eye darts and all the eye direction, everything, and then he'll just build the whole shot from that out. You know, I usually tend to think a little bit more in full poses and stuff, but he just starts purely, if it's appropriate, he'll start with just with the eye darts and then build out from there.
Nice. Yeah. That's one of the things that's helped me in that, and also just full body shots is I was talking to John Cars a while back at Disney, and one of the things he said that really stuck with me is it's all in the eyes. You know, like what Victor was saying, that's where most people will be looking. You know, that's where we look. You know, when we're talking to someone, you know, we'll occasionally look down at the mouth and stuff like that. But the eyes are where it's at.
I'm going to do number 2 here.
Yeah. So
number 2 from Alejandra Mendoza.
There you are.
Hey, how do you approach a shot with multiple characters? Ooh. I'm assuming you mean a shot where you're animating all those multiple characters, because if you're sharing it with someone else, then that's a whole additional challenge. Yeah, that's a tricky subject because it comes down to figuring out. I think you need to figure out ahead of time, you know, not only what are the beats of the scene, but where you want the audience to be looking at any given time, so that the performances aren't stepping on each other. You know, it may be that let's say you do a video reference for each character and you come up with a cool acting performance for them. But then when you put them all together, you find out that people don't know where to look because everybody's doing something at the same time. So you've got to say, okay, you know, what's the important moment here? Where do I want the audience looking? How do I draw their eye to that? Can I do it with line of action? Can I do it with emotion? Can I do it with the other character's eye direction? There's a number of tools you have that you can use to direct the audience's attention to where they should be looking. The easiest one is just have every character look where they're looking. Like if I want everybody to look at Frank, then I'll make sure all the other characters are looking at Frank too. But also just like, you know, if one character is moving and the other characters aren't, or if all the characters are moving, one character's holding still, that kind of contrast of motion helps to direct the eye. So I think the biggest challenge for me in a multi-character shot is just the choreography of where is the audience looking, what's the important beat of information I need to deliver at this moment. I want to make sure they're looking there, and then I want to move their attention over here and deliver that important piece of information.
Yeah, that's always difficult for me, especially if it's a physical shot and all the characters are kind of, even if they're not all doing something, but they're moving.
Yeah.
I'm like, how can I
keep alive?
How can I how can I make this one stand out over here? And could be making them move less or more than the others.
Yeah.
But
it's a deep subject.
Good answer. Sean. Let me see. I think you're. Did I see you in here? No.
Well, he'll just have to hear about it later.
How old is too old to enter or be hired in this industry?
That's a good question. How old are you, Frank?
I don't know. I'm
you don't
30.
Know.
I'm 30. I started in the industry. I was 22, I think. I was 22. Started working in 2008, and I'd recommend maybe watching the Floyd Norman documentary because that subject doesn't come up a lot, and I feel like he touches on it a little bit. And it's hard to say someone coming in at a certain age because he pointed out some ageism things, but that was, this is people who have, gotten older throughout the, being in the industry already. So I'm not sure how it would be.
With fresh. Floyd, he was already at Disney and he just stayed there and never left. I started at Pixar when I was 30, or I turned 30 that year anyway. So it was kind of a mid-career change for me, going from being like a conceptual artist, art director, to being an animator. So it happens, but there's a lot more competition these days, and a lot more younger people, getting animation training online or in schools. So it's hard to say, really. It's a good question.
Yeah, I mean, I've had I've had students that were older than me, and there's one I went to school with that was in his 40s, and this was when I was in college, and he made a change. So I think I would just I honestly I wouldn't even keep it in your mind. I would just if you want to do it, then I would just do it. And they're gonna see your work first before they see you. So
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
So
All right, let's talk to Federico at the Animation Boy. What's your favorite movie you worked on? Ooh. Let's see. I mean, if you're asking oh, you
maybe.
do? Well, I mean, as far as like, that's a great movie, or that was a movie I really enjoyed working on, because it's not always the same thing. But for movies that I think are great, and then I also had a really great time on, that'd be like Inside Out and Incredibles. And then I also had a really great time working on Wall-E. It's not my favorite movie, but I think there's great things in it, and I'm really proud of what we did. How about you?
I was wondering if you were going to say Wally. I remember you mentioning you like to animate.
He was fun to animate. Yeah.
I'd say probably Boss Baby, because it wasn't, and it's cool that it's like the most recent one that I worked on. I mean, I can't say Coco yet because I haven't finished, but I think mainly because of the people that I got to work with, because I didn't, although I tend to gravitate to more of the acting side of animation. That show was particularly different because there was a lot of exaggerated moments, and the characters were more
It's a little broader,
cartoony, and I don't get to do that stuff a lot. So I try to be more well-rounded. So it was nice to when they actually asked us what movies we wanted to go on to at the end of Kung Fu Panda 3, and Dragon 3 would have been an easy choice as a transition from Panda to that, but I wanted to do something that probably won't get that many opportunities to do. So and that one was great because the team and also the director. If you guys don't know who Tom McGrath is, he directed all of the Madagascar movies, Megamind. I may be missing something, but yeah, he worked on like Space Jam back in the day, and he was a story artist on Ren and Stimpy.
Cool.
And
Legit.
If you guys know who Powdered Toast Man is, maybe.
Quick question: do we have like a time slot for this? Like, do we have to be done at a certain time?
No, just whenever.
Okay.
Whenever
I just want to make sure that we don't have to like miss questions because we went too long. All right. I think you take a number 5 here.
So, Nathan Thomas, I saw you in here. I so smart. Would you rather have a cushy, easy job or a challenging, unstable one? I could answer those pretty easily now, especially having a family. I mean, I think, well, either way, I wouldn't want anything to be easy because then I'm not going to be able to grow, and that's always what I'm after. It's just growing, because you do something that's easy all the time, it's not, it's become boring, and you're just stale, and I don't know. I always like a challenge. That's why I've done some of the things that I've done with this and BMX and other things in my life. So yeah, it's but you threw in the unstable part, which that comes into play. Having a family now, so
yeah.
Definitely wouldn't want that. So, yeah, I'll leave it there. I can't answer.
Well, I mean, I'm kind of with you. If by cushy he means stable, then it's like, yeah, I'll take the cushy job. I mean, I got a family.
Yeah.
It's not just about me and what I want. And that
Yeah.
sometimes happens, where you get on a project that maybe it's not really challenging you, and so you kind
Mm.
of got to find ways to challenge yourself and keep yourself invested and growing on that show. If you're not getting that externally,
Yeah.
but ideally, you can be challenged and you can have a stable job. This
Mm.
doesn't always happen, so
Yeah.
but stability comes first at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. That's um, I know some of you have kids. I see some names in there, and you're. I'm sure you guys notice your focus changes after that. Whether it doesn't. It's not now like, oh, that project would be cool to work on. It becomes like, oh, what's their benefits like? What's their
Yeah. What will my wife say about this?
All right, we're
Oh,
to number
let's
6.
see. Number 6. Ryan Zale at Ryan Zale. I've been bouncing in and out of Canada for feature work. What's your take on the Nomad Animator? Ah, boy.
Hashtag resume builder. Hashtag
Hashtag
wife hates it. By the
wife
way.
hates it, by the way. That was my first thing. Is like, boy, are you married? That my wife would hate that. Yeah, I don't even know like where to begin with that, because it just seems extremely challenging to me.
Mm,
Um, Again, this place being so cushy and then it's been stable. I've had a job here for in the entertainment industry for 17 years in the same place. It's kind of unheard of.
yeah.
Or it's pretty rare anyway.
Yeah.
So, um, yeah, I know it's getting a lot harder out there for people with studios closing down in the states and moving work over borders and overseas. Would you have any thoughts on that,
Um,
Frank? I mean, you've been
I
around a few
guess.
places.
Yeah. I don't think I've been at a place longer than 3 years. And it wasn't. And it was my own choice. Just I was trying to get closer to where I wanted to be. And I guess with this sounds like your choice, for because you're saying for feature work. So if sometimes you have to kind of basically pay your dues to get to that place. So if that means bouncing around a bit until you build up enough work to be where you really want to be, and it's a stable place, then if you don't have a whole lot of things that that would halt that, then I'd say do what you need to do to get where you want to be. But there's other ways around it too. Um, there is feature work still in the U.S. I mean, Pixar here is ILM. There's places that are less stable, but they're still um, in the states. So um, I
Yeah.
wouldn't lose hope with that. But yeah, I totally get it though. My wife doesn't like moving. I don't like moving. So um, and you have a second question here. I ended my reel with feature work I've done. Even Is it even worth it to show to recruiters to know I've done feature work,
Oh
or
yeah.
stick with all personal shots?
No, I think it's good to have a balance.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I had a mixture with the reel I showed here, and when I went to Disney, I had all personal shots. So because I didn't have any feature experience at the time, so for me it was like, what can I do to show that I can handle that work,
Yeah.
with my own stuff.
I think that's a lot of what it is just showing that I can be a part of a team and a
Mm,
pipeline, and I can hit deadlines and work with the director.
yeah.
I go to a lot of real reviews here from when we're recruiting, whether it's interns or new hires, and a lot of times we would lament not having enough personal work on there because people have just been doing feature stuff on
Oh
there
yeah.
too much, and so you're always asking, well, was that the animator's choice or was that the director's choice there?
Mm,
But at the same time, you want to, see, what's your professional level of polish? What do you bring to a production? So I think it's important to have a balance of both personal and professional work. If you have both to
mm,
do.
yeah. And that I got just before moving to the next one, I got feedback. I think it was at Disney. Um, yeah, I think it was there. Um, but just the importance of having the feature work, like what Victor was saying about the choices, because that. it was for them. It was good to see what kind of work I was into, like what I gravitated toward, and what choices I'd make, and also just the what's the word? Drawing a blank here. Um, Basically, that you're taking on things on your own, and
Initiative?
initiative. Sleep. That you're taking the initiative to do these things on your own, and it shows you can be self-directed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, uh, teen.
Let's see. Teen Wolf or Big Trouble in Little China. I'm assuming this person means, that Ryan means the original Teen Wolf movie from the 80s, not the Teen Wolf
Yeah.
series on MTV, which I've not ever seen.
I haven't seen that either. I haven't seen the movie, the Teen Wolf in a while either.
I mean, neither.
I'd probably go with Big Trouble in Little China since I saw that more recently.
Yeah, I gotta go with Big Trouble. I've always loved that
It's
film.
a funny, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I do need to go see Teen Wolf again. It's probably a
Yeah.
good one to watch with the kids.
Yeah.
For fun.
I like Michael J. Fox.
I do like him too.
Let's see. Oh. Um. Oh, this is a good one.
Yeah.
Matt London. You could take this one. Matt London 08. What's one thing you wish you knew back when you got into your first job?
Dropping this one on me. One thing I knew when I wish I got into my first job in animation. Gosh, I don't know, because the best part of it was just learning all this stuff, you know? I don't think I made, I think any critical error I made was probably, interpersonal relationships, just, not knowing when to keep my mouth shut, or, But other than that, I just came in with, wide eyes and wide ears and just tried to, soak up everything. And, I mean, I was literally learning on the job because I didn't have any feature animation experience or much training at all. I was self-taught, so... I don't know. Have you made? You got a better anecdote? First animation job.
Man, I guess that it could vary a bit based on where you are, but that there are people out there to help you. You don't have to suffer in silence. A lot of times. And this includes myself when I got started. You want to come off a certain way, that they made the right choice in hiring you. So sometimes you're having issues or things that you need to solve that it's becoming a problem. You try to take it on yourself, and instead of going and seeking out the help that you need. Just I guess the illusion of strength, maybe. So just kind of opening up and just reaching out, hey, I'm having trouble. Whether it's a certain shot that you're on, you're stuck. You need eyes. You need fresh eyes on it, or you don't know how to do something. Character or certain notes aren't clear, but you don't want to. Seem like you weren't listening, or just little things like that. Just, I've learned now to, just speak up about it because it's normal. It's not.
I think also when I started here, I was just so in awe of everybody. I thought that everybody knew what they were doing, and I was the only scared one. And it turned out that everybody's scared. Nobody knows what they're doing, and we're all just winging it, and doing the best we can.
Yeah.
And that sort of shared vulnerability makes for a lot better experience, if the culture allows for it. So that was a big takeaway from here, I think. We got a side question over here. The Broken Tangent says, Victor, thank you for the I Will Survive Alien short back in the day. I saw it in high school, and it really pushed me to become an animator. Do you ever go back to that piece? No, I never go back to it. I mean, I show it to people once in a while, but I don't I'm not going to reanimate it or anything like that.
Alien Song 2.0.
I like to think I could do a better job today, but this is going to stay in my head.
Nice. Where was it?
Oh. Meanwhile, back to technique.
Cheryl Terry at CKS Terry. how do you approach overlapping action in a character motion? Um, I guess there's different mindsets for it. Sometimes you may have a heavy character. Sometimes you'll have different elements in the scene. So I guess I approach it first from that perspective, seeing like what I guess the truth to material thing. Um, I went to college with her.
Really?
Yeah.
Was Teresa?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
I didn't know she worked here.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. um, where was it? Oh yeah. So
Overlap.
the truth to material, I think that's because you may have a character with a cape or something. You'll have the long flowing capes, and you'll have the heavy like drapes type thing. So first thinking about that, but and then also so once I have an idea of where I want to go surface wise, um, I think about the what was it in Animation Mentor? There's like the string thing where you're
The pendulum.
yeah, something where I always imagine pulling on something and how that's like riding along with it, and that's I don't know. I just try to think of things in the simplest form
Yeah.
and break it down in parts. Like even with capes, like we had to animate Poe's cape in the spirit world, spirit realm, and
On Coco.
I'd break it down. I'd I'd break it down like from this axis, and then how the wind is affecting it from this axis, and just so you get because if I think about it as one complex motion, then I'm like where do I even start with that?
You
So
had to animate the cape.
yeah, yeah,
Dang.
there was yeah, we did it. We did it in some of the shots because he didn't have the cape. Yeah, we did it in some of the shots with the cape, and then also the ribbon stuff with Maymay, and then the CFX, the character effects or simulation team would go on top of that, and but I don't know. That's how I approach it. Just try to simplify the
Yeah, the
as much
way
as
the way I
possible.
approach it depends a little bit on whether I'm working pose to pose or layered. If I'm working pose to pose, I'll try to build some of the overlap into the poses, like in the breakdowns and stuff, just to show what's leading, what's following. Where's the force coming from. And in layered, a lot of times I'll just start offsetting keys, to have things lead and follow, so that not everything's arriving or starting at the same time, in a
Yeah.
pose change. And lately being like the last 4 or 5 years, I've started using, for example, on a spine, using IK spine more, and just thinking of like the hips and the chest as separate masses, like bouncing balls,
Yeah.
and kind of timing those out separately, with the head and with the arms, and just trying to give those things individual timing so that they have their own sense of individual weight, so everything's not always moving at the same time. That's kind of how I get my head around it, and I like to go through. In my teaching, I like to go through just like live action clips or VFX clips, and just like trace a circle around, like here's the different masses of the scene, like going through like the King Kong shots from Peter Jackson's King Kong, like when he's fighting the dinosaurs. Just like, okay, I'm just going to plot out the hips of the dinosaur, see what it's doing here. Okay, now I'm going to plot out the chest and see how it relates to the hips. Now I'm going to plot out the head, just reduce it all to bouncing balls and see how they all interplay and how they offset, how they overlap each other. And that kind of helps me to understand weight sometimes too.
Yeah, and some people in the 2D days animated like that. I know of one guy. I mean, I'm not sure if it's true, but our head of animation on Panda 3, I heard that he animated on Spirit that way with the horses.
Stallion, yeah.
Yeah, you'd break up the torso and like in the hind area of the horse, and you'd animate those two balls separately.
Yeah.
And yeah, sometimes I guess that's kind of how I would be too. Just like I was saying with complex motion, just trying to break it down and simplify it into the bare.
Yeah.
Uh,
Simplify.
oh,
Number
same
11.
person.
Might be a repetitive question, but what was your first animation job and how was it? I like to hear people's stories. Well, my first animation job was this place, so it was awesome. What was your first animation job?
I wonder if they're there. If you mean like as an animator or just in the industry, Yes. Well, my first job as an animator was 'cause my first job in the industry was as a 3D artist. So I did animation, but it was a mixture of everything. But purely as an animator, it was at Lightstream Animation Studios in here in the Bay Area in Petaluma, and it was great because it was a really small team. It was I think when I started there, there was maybe like five of us, I think, and yeah, there's the three founders, um, me, maybe six, yeah, because there's a production um, like coordinator and modeler and tech guy. Um, but yeah, it was great because we it was a really it became a really tight knit team, and I think at the max we grew to 20 people. Actually, worked with Michelle Ohana there.
Really
Yeah,
cool. Small world.
yeah. We went to college together too. um, but yeah, that it was great because of the small team. You know, you get more face time with the owner who was also the animation director.
Hmm.
Um, and these three guys, they each came from ILM, like 10 years of experience there before starting their own company. So it was great just to pick their brains and having that time with them every day. You know, looking at your shots and getting it's like being in school again. But yeah, that was how it was for me.
We got another live chat question here.
Does Victor have Twitter?
Oh no, well no, I don't have Twitter, but there's a longer question after that. Broken Tangent says, Frank and Victor, how far do you get in your planning before your first pass begins? Lots of thumbnails before you set a key, or do you gents jump right in?
Mm, start that one.
Well, kind of depends on your deadlines, I suppose. But I try to take at least a day just to research and whether it's exploring like live action videos or doing my own video research or thumbnailing or something before I set a key. If I've got like we do sequence blocking here, where they ask you to like take 2 weeks and block all your shots and just show to the director everything in sequence in continuity, which is really great. Usually that first week I spend just thinking about the shot and planning, and then I'll spend the second week blocking. I can block pretty fast. So I'm pretty fast in general, so that's not a problem for me. But I do try to do like as much research as I can, about the scene, the characters, and whatever, and then like go away and like go to sleep, and let it percolate in my subconscious, and then come back the next day and start planning out.
Just animating.
Yeah, but at least a couple days. Usually, like at least 3 days before I start keying stuff, if I can help it.
Nice. Yeah, I think I'm pretty similar. Uh, it does depend, but I usually try to get some thumbnails down, even if it doesn't have to be super detailed, but the equivalent of like storyboards maybe. And I'll usually take that to well actually yeah, if it has something that I haven't animated before, then yeah, I'll spend time researching that. And like when I worked in games, I had this shot with some wolves, and I had never animated any quadrupeds before, so I had to spend a lot of time looking at quadrupeds, wolves in particular, running and how they jump because I had those things in the shot. So spending time with that, and then getting to the thumbnails, and I'll usually take my thumbnails with me to the reference room and act out my shot based on what I planned out, and then
Do you try to hit your thumbnails in your acting performance?
I'll do it in sections. So like I'll do that first just to see like how what I planned out, how it looks and feels to me, and then I'll I was gonna say take a pass, but then I'll act it out again, just purely like what I'm feeling about it. What comes naturally. I feel like uh, with some of the acting stuff, I try to feel it out more than planning it. So sometimes I'll go with that, or sometimes I'll mix the two, like because there's something that came up was spontaneous that I liked, and then I'll look at those and kind of get an idea of the shot, like if it fits in there, because I don't want to dive in and then have to make too many changes, and it's I just want it to be as smooth as possible. So it's probably half planning and half animating. Um, but if a shot's easy enough, limited, and sometimes I'll just jump in and get a feel for just like the timing and
Yeah.
like
That's
a
something that
ball or
I would
something.
do on cars, because the cars are
Yeah.
so quick to animate that you could just get in there and start experimenting with stuff,
Mm.
and just have three variations, on an idea within an hour.
Yeah.
So I would do that.
Yes.
But with humans, yeah, you definitely want to spend more time up front, or
Mm.
humanoid complex characters. One thing, when you're shooting your reference, do you have the actual dialogue like looping, or do you just say it yourself, or how do you do
Mm.
that?
I I'll have it looping, and it's hard sometimes because I've I've heard of people just memorizing it, and then um, I guess so it's more uh, spontaneous, like you're not trying to hit certain parts,
Right,
when you're acting
right.
it out. I haven't had too many issues with that, so I usually have it looping so I can, um, for one, remember it because
Yeah,
I don't want to I don't want to spend time memorizing it
yeah.
because I'll have plenty of time to hear it over and over again.
I always
But
find that when I'm trying to act to match the dialogue, that I can never keep up with the dialogue. The dialogue always seems like a little too fast.
yeah.
So I've started playing back the dialogue slower, like played it back at 75%
Oh.
speed. And then I feel like I
Huh.
have a chance to like breathe and like think and like catch up to the lines,
Hmm.
without feeling rushed. And then
Okay.
when I get the footage back to my desk, I can just speed it up a little bit and I can sync it back to the audio.
Uh-huh.
So then I'll usually like shoot like maybe 5 minutes of reference to something, and then I'll go through Final Cut and just pick out all my favorite takes, and Frankenstein them together and try to sync them up roughly to the track.
Hmm.
And that's worked pretty well.
Nice. Yeah, that's a good thing to try out. Um,
What's next?
which was it? 12? Oh
Yes,
yeah, that's a you question.
that's a me question. Derek Christman at Name asks, "Do you have any tips for applying to the Pixar animation internship?" Let's see. Well, I can talk about what we look for in intern reels, which is not too dissimilar from what we look for in professional animator reels, but we're looking for your ideas. We're looking for what are your sensibilities. We don't want you to animate what you think we want to see. We want you to animate like what's interesting to you, what's compelling to you, and what's your specific point of view, what's your worldview. Because the more points of view we get in here, the more diverse we are. The stronger we are as a department. So we're not just always repeating ourselves. So that's great. And with the internship, we're more likely to take chances on people. Like we've brought in interns who don't have any CG animation experience. They just do 2D
Oh.
or they do stop motion or something, or they just have this really wacky short film that maybe it's not too well polished, but like the ideas are so inventive that like let's just bring that person in and just see what
Hmm.
happens. And sometimes it works out, and sometimes it doesn't, but sometimes it does. So that's a chance or an opportunity where we can take chances on people. So yeah, I think it's just about coming up with ideas that really represent you and are unique and hopefully that if they resonate with you, they'll resonate with us too. Animate the kind of shots that you would want to animate, if you were working at a studio.
Hmm.
Show us what's interesting to you.
Ah,
That's kind of my take on it.
nice.
It's fine to have walk cycles and stuff in there too, but mostly it's about acting, showing characters thinking and changing emotions and making it all feel spontaneous and motivated from the inside.
Yeah. The I think Derek, you have some other questions
Oh
here.
yeah,
What
what's
was
that?
your first job in the animation
I think
scene?
we covered that.
Um, yeah. I mean, I guess you can talk about like just your first, I guess, job in the entertainment world. Period. Like the game stuff.
Well, I worked on game stuff as a concept designer, back in the '90s. So
Um,
there was some animation in it, I guess, but I didn't do it.
yeah. And my first was in games as well. Um, I was a 3D artist at a small. It was an online game company. Um, called Electro Tank, and
Good name.
it was we all worked remotely. So I worked from home, and there's someone in North Carolina, there's someone in San Francisco, there's so it was cool. First job being able to work from home. Um, Distracting though, since you're at home.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was building characters, doing the texturing, the lighting, the hair, the rigging, all that stuff. And but it was the first one getting in, and getting paid for what I went to school for. Somewhat, it's like I was living the dream.
Chuck Hassenlop asks, Frank and Victor, which NorCal networking events should we try to attend? They do. I mean, they do. There is a SIGGRAPH San Francisco chapter. I don't know.
Oh,
It's not too active. It's relatively new, actually. Those are good. Northern California, though.
You may have to go down to LA for
Yeah.
CTN.
Yeah, CTN's great in
It's a
Burbank.
big one.
Networking events. VES does stuff. If you're a member of Visual Effects Society, they do. They have a summit coming up pretty soon, so that's probably a pretty good one to be involved in. And then Czech also asks, Victor, do you remember me from Caligari True Space Tech Support? Sorry, I don't.
1,000 years ago.
I don't even remember. I don't think I ever used True Space. Maybe I did. Sorry. That was a long
Broken
time
tangent. I'm glad you brought up cars. Was there a lot of R&D that went into bringing life to characters like that? I.e., how the heck do you bring life to a car?
There was back in the day a lot of testing that went on with that. I was on the first Cars film, but most of that stuff had been figured out by the time I got there. But people like Scott Clark and Bobby Podesta, who are still with us now, who were the supervisors on that show, yeah, they did a lot of experimentation with how much squash and stretch can we put on the cars. What is the language of the eyes? Because they have that weird thing where the lids and the brows are the same thing, and there's no division between the eyes on most of the cars. So figuring out just what that graphic language was, how much can you get away with using the tires as limbs and gesturing. There was a lot of experimentation to that early on, but it's pretty fun once you kind of crack the code. You can do quite a bit with them. Yeah. It really forces you to focus on timing and graphic clear expressions.
Well, we'll bounce back a little bit.
Yeah.
Back to the page and then back to the chat. You have another question, Derek. Any animation exercises / things to animate in order to improve skill and practice?
Oh boy.
I guess that would depend on feedback that you got or self, reflection, just what you feel like you need to work on.
Yeah. It kind of depends on where you are in your education too.
Yeah. So, I mean, I used to keep a list of things that I never animated and things that I felt like I needed to work on, and I would just, when I would work on personal shots, I would try to tailor what I'm picking to have elements of those things in there, so I can try to strengthen those areas.
Yeah.
Yeah,
actually, it's kind of the same thing for me. Like when I'm getting cast on shots, or when they're asking what kind of shots do you want, I'll try to ask for things that I don't feel comfortable with, just to push myself. So
nice.
On Good Dinosaur, I already never really animated quadrupeds, but also I wasn't really comfortable with super physical stuff. So I'm out of the gate. I'm like, can you cast me some really tough physical shots so that I can try to work my way out of that? Throw me in the deep end and let me see if I can swim. So that was cool. Got to keep it fresh.
Yeah.
Nessa at Magic of Arts. Magic of Space Arts. The spaces really help here. Yeah. Currently, I'm learning the wave principle, but it's very difficult for me. Do you have any tips? I assume wave principle would for overlapping action. Just making you're gonna crack a whip or have a pendulum. Successive breaking of joints. I assume that's what it means. Gosh, I guess it depends on how your brain understands animation. Are you more of a procedural, I need to understand the splines under the hood and look at that, or I'm a drawing person, I need to understand by images what a breakdown looks like and where stuff. But for me, it's always just a matter of thinking about where is the force originating? What's starting the wave, and then seeing that the result of that force travel down the chain.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to talk about it and explain it. It's kind of a thing more like to show it.
I mean, I kind of see any tips. I think what helped me, I think it was animating that stuff in more layered fashion. So animating I guess the origin of the movement, like where the force is coming from, animating that first, like the rotation of that, because I had a quick shot with Poe of him like fluffing a blanket, and so just rotating from that point and getting the overall movement, because you can get a general sense of the movement. Um, just it'll look like a big a big plate, rotating, but you can start to layer in the next part. Like once you see this part moving, then you can see the middle part and see how that would follow, and then you can start to like break it up.
So you're just kind of working yourself way down the chain, like FK.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, it's kind of hard to talk about. It's a little easier to show. That's a tricky one. I'm gonna take 14 there.
This is a question for you. African American industry.
Yeah. South African, maybe. Yeah.
Ere Santos. At Vico Pico?
Vicho Picho.
How has it been being an African American in the animation industry? I heard you may be joining that too. Wink, wink. Anyway, I think. I mean, it's different. I think being there's usually not that many animators that I've worked with that were African American. Also, my first job, I was the only one. Second, I was the only one. When I was in games at Crystal Dynamics, that was like my first larger studio. I was the only one in animation, but there were others on the team. Frozen, I was the only one. Big Hero, I was only. Wow. DreamWorks, I was one of two, and then I was the only one. And then now, it's I'm one of two on the team, but I feel like the studio is really diverse. So it may not be in animation, but there's a wide variety of people here from different backgrounds. So it's just personally. It pops in my mind sometimes, but not, it doesn't stick a lot, and I just try to reach out, and there's communities out there where I feel maybe kids don't feel like it's an attainable goal, so maybe they don't try, or animation school and software and all that stuff is expensive too, so that goes for everybody. So that's early on with myself and friends I've had, we struggle to get the software we need to do this stuff, and I think there's been a lot more being done by like Autodesk and these places to give you free licenses for 3 years.
Oh yeah, the student's license, you basically get it for free.
Yeah. So there's definitely more options to make it more attainable for people to at least learn on their own before going to school, because that's an expensive thing. But yeah, it hasn't been too bad. Again, there's not a whole lot in animation that I've worked with personally, but I do know of other people, be it games, film, or TV, or whatever. But it's getting larger. Same thing with women. There's not a whole lot of women, but it's still growing.
That's definitely getting better, because I can see, like, whenever we go to Cal Arts or a school like that, it used to be that the women were like, there was very few animators. Now it's like 50% or more are women. And I've noticed that in my classes as well, that sometimes it's usually a pretty even split male-female, if not slightly weighted heavier on female. So that's kind of exciting to see that trend moving upward from teaching, and that'll eventually hit the industry. So.
Nice.
Let's see, Brittany Owens, what's your workflow for lip sync? How do you avoid too much chatty mouth, but also avoid too many mushy syllables. Oh boy. I'm I'm all about lip sync. I love teaching lip sync and doing lip sync and stuff. So I've got a whole like 9-step procedure for that.
Oh,
I'm not going to go through all 9 steps here, but just to talk about the principle of it is I do all my lip sync layered, and I build it off the camera. I very rarely use A-libs or predefined shapes. I like to build everything specifically for the camera, for the character, for the emotion, for the moment. And I do it layered. You know, what I'll do is in my blocking for my acting performance, I will block in the mouth expressions that I want, just the attitudes. And once those are approved or I like those, I'll just go in through and start layering in lip sync. So starting with the jaw, open close pass, and then still in those expressions, and then I'll start. Okay, how much do I need to move the corners in or out to hit some of these shape sounds? Okay, now how much do I need to pinch the corners to hit some of these sounds or like oohs or e's during it? And so I'm just constantly layering in on top of those expressions. So because for me, the goal is to have the expressions read first and foremost. And then there's enough going on with the lips and jaw moving that you believe the sync that's making noise too. But by doing it in a layered approach like that, and I'm not paying attention to what frames my keys land on, I just do every pass separately, like straight ahead. Then by that nature, I get offset keys in my lip sync animation, and so everything kind of tends to have a more natural, organic flow. It doesn't feel too pose-to-posey, like just going from one shape to the next. As far as not getting too chatty, I just use the old trick where I just say the dialogue with my finger on my chin, and I figure out where does the jaw actually need to open. If I say "get on the bus," that's 4 vowels, so you might be tempted to say "get on the bus," but it's actually only 2 openings. Get on the bus, right? Get on the bus. So just finding ways to simplify that with my jaw, and then just trying to, with the rest of it, just favoring my extremes so I keep the transitions pretty snappy. And so I'm living in my extreme shapes more than I'm living in my in-betweens to hopefully prevent any mushiness. All right, I'm going to stop talking about that. You have anything to add on there? Do you have any tips or favorite procedures?
I do that sometimes, and I feel like if I'm pressed for time, then I'll do more of like building each phoneme as I'm going along, which I don't know. It's kind of back and forth. I guess it depends on the character whether that takes longer or it's a shorter thing. So I did that a lot on Boss Baby, just building shapes because they were more like graphic type. But I feel like the drawback of doing that is having to go back and adjust for like maintaining those expressions through the dialogue. Unless I built it into each shape, and sometimes when I'm building each shape, I start to lose sight of like where I was emotionally. So and I have to go back and try to.
I should say that some of it is style dependent too. Like if I'm working on Fear from Inside Out, I'm probably going to work with pose to pose because he's just about big funny mouth shapes. And with the layered approach that I do, it's more about organic, natural feeling dialogue and not so much about appealing funny shapes. So I have to work a little bit harder to get that sometimes, if that's the workflow. Okay.
I guess we can bounce back to one.
Oh yeah, let's take one from the Chillax chat.
Let's see.
I think we covered all those.
Cody Brown, yeah. Oh, the cliche one.
Steve Jace. Question: it's cliche, but if you had one word of advice for younger you get going into the industry, what would it be? For the younger you get
I guess for
younger people getting into the industry, I'd say remember that the animation is a team sport and it's not about you. You're making a film and your work has to serve the film, so be nice to each other and be humble and don't piss people off because you will end up working with them again. It's a small industry.
Yeah. I'd echo that for sure. See who guys I want. Oh, okay. Jessica Racer. Hey guys, I want to animate more educational-based films / videos as a job. No offense to you guys at Pixar. Oh, it's not. It's alright. But it is a struggle to find studios that focus in this. Any tips? Oof.
Yeah,
I don't have any experience in that department. I mean, if you I guess if you have things that inspired you to do that, maybe it's something that you saw. Maybe you can look up where that was done or people
Yeah.
that worked on it and reach out to them through LinkedIn or stuff like that.
You might also consider starting in educational software, because there's a lot
Mm.
of kids educational software out there that uses animation, that needs animators, I'm sure. So that's probably a good place to at least get in the genre that you're interested into. And then maybe from there you can branch out and get connections in the industry and find ways into feature or whatever, television educational animation. But yeah, it's kind of I don't really have any experience in that area.
Oh, he's
Christian Call Kaye
Christian
says,
Kaye.
Kaye, hey guys, what advice
Hey,
could you
Christian.
give to students who are currently taking the online animation schools? By the way, Victor, thank you so much for sharing your amazing thumbnails online. Oh, thank you for saying so. Advice for students who are currently taking the online animation schools.
I guess use I've had random occurrences with students where some I feel like the time excuses that come up and in some it's valid sometimes, but there's other times where I feel like people aren't really putting their all into it. So I would say you're spending a lot of money on these online courses, so take advantage of it. Have questions every session. Try to try to submit your work at least the day before or an
Yeah.
hour before or something, because I've had that happen too, um, where I get to someone and they're still working on it or they're uploading it but I think questions for sure, like, because you're paying for your time to get critiques, but also to interface with whatever instructor you have. So just utilizing that time to get the most out of it.
Yeah. Take advantage of the online
Yeah.
community too, like your fellow
Oh yeah.
students.
Yeah. And yeah, listen to other people's feedback too, not just yours.
Yeah.
You can
Although
learn a lot from
learning
that
to
too.
filter the feedback is a skill you have to develop. Not just taking every note that you get, but trying to decide which ones, what's the core of each note and which ones do you agree with.
Yeah.
We're getting a little late on time, and we're getting a little low on
Oh
battery.
yeah.
So what do you say we take one more of these questions and one more live chat question?
All right. Yeah. So bounce back to the paper.
Number
I guess
16.
this is another one from Brittany. For Pixar quality, how many hours should we be averaging per shot? We tend to spend a lot of extra time finessing our personal shots because there's no deadline. But with the studio's deadlines, how do you know what to finesse and what to let go? That's a
Good
good
question. Yeah. Well, I guess I can start by saying that our average at Pixar, I think, is like 72 frames a week. Just like if you averaged out all the shows, 72 frames, which is what, like 4 feet a week, I think. So if you're animating full time, 40 to 50 hours a week, you should be able to produce 3 seconds of polished animation. I think that's a pretty safe place to start. And of course, once you actually get the job, then all hell breaks loose, and you're doing overtime, and they say, no, you've got to do 6, or 10 feet a week, or whatever. So. But yeah, knowing when to stop polishing is a tricky one. And honestly, I don't think polish is as important on student demo reels, because, at least for Pixar, we're looking for more ideas more than we are looking for polish. But I think that comes down to knowing what it is that your potential employer is looking for, and so it's good to talk to them about that.
Yeah. Also, just to chime in on that last bit, I think there sometimes if you feel like you're going on long, then just ask yourself, are you actually making the shot better, or are you just noodling things? Because if you have a deadline, then you may be trying to polish the heck out of something that people may not even notice.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
just
I think
just finding
feedback's
what's,
important there.
Yeah.
To know, like, is my idea even working before you worry about polishing those knee pops,
Yeah. All right.
All right.
So last one up here. The broken tangent.
He's got questions.
Do you
Or she.
feel as you've progressed through your career You know how long certain shots or actions take you. Production estimates are still rough for me as a young animator.
Feel like you got a pretty good
Um,
handle on how to bid things.
I think so. Yeah, it depends. Like if I've been on a project for a while, then it's a lot more easy. But just starting out, like my first shot on Coco, I would, if they were to ask me how long that would take me, I would have no idea because I don't know. It's my first time animating the characters. I don't know what challenges will come of that.
You just
And
learn the software.
yeah, so I guess as you get more, as you work more on whatever you're working on, I think it becomes easier. Especially in games, they would ask us a lot about like, um, they would ask us to put our hours on our tasks to see, for production to see how long
Hmm.
this would take us. And so a run to stop, okay, 4 hours, and so you start to get more accurate as you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah,
What
I think
about
I'm,
you?
I'm pretty good at estimating how long something's going to take me these days. So it's pretty rare that I'm off. Once in a while, I'll underestimate and I'll have to let a shot go or something. That's pretty rare. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Cool. All right,
All
guys.
right.
Thank you all for the questions.
Yeah. Thanks for showing up.
Um, yeah. So again, I'll try to keep this going, and
Get another
I'll
special guest next
see.
time.
Yeah, I'll ask around and see, and if you guys have any suggestions, if you know any, if you know of any animators at Pixar,
Hey, doctor.
maybe I can ask them, or directors if they're
Well,
not
he's an
busy.
animator first.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, throw them out there if you have any suggestions, and I'll try to see if I can get them. Uh, all right, you're welcome. You're welcome. Cool guys. I'll see you.
Thanks. Bye bye.